So what are some of the challenges now that, just within a year, you're in multiple locations? What are some of the challenges that come with being in those locations? You already mentioned the truck's going to go back and forth between Rochester and Syracuse a couple times a week or a few times a
Yep.
week. What are the other challenges of getting the team together, of getting everybody on the same page?
I'll let you know when I figure that out.
Oh, you still figuring it out?
No, well, we've had a very good run with the folks from FB Displays in Buffalo. Their team has naturally meshed with ours.
Right.
Communication is very good. Our process that they've adopted is working for them. We've had to make a few tweaks to our internal process just by way of the fact that they're not in our building, but that's working. It's going to be similar, I hope, in Syracuse. Obviously, we have to understand their current process in order for us to kind of integrate that into our overall
Yeah.
process as an organization. So that'll take some time, but the challenge with that will be the fact that you know, we are dispersed a little bit.
Yeah. I'm curious on the terms of the deal and how they differ between the two that you've done now. Can you share with us a little bit about, let's start with just uh, ownership. Did they leave right away or have they stayed on
Uh,
when you bought them out? What does that look like?
in both cases, Francine Brooks, who was the founder of her organization in Buffalo, is staying on for a period of time. She's helping us with new business development. She's been very integral in helping her clients understand the the new offering that's available to them now. So she's helping us transition clients into the expanded offerings that Apogee now brings to the table that Francine, by design, did not offer. She had a business model that was very very efficient, um, albeit probably a little bit limited for her clients. So she may have had clients that were using her for portable modular solutions, but then going elsewhere for larger rental exhibits or custom work or interior work. Well, now she can kind of bring that to her client base because that's all available under one roof now instead of using two sources,
Yeah.
for
Was
example.
this your
So,
your choice, Mark, to have her stay on, or was that a requirement on the
yep,
seller's end?
nope, nope.
Yeah.
We've asked her to stay, and she's been a marvelous addition. We're very excited and thankful to still have her helping us
Yeah.
with that new development there. And in the Syracuse market, there are three owners there. They are also staying for 6 months to just help us transition. And
Yeah.
um, uh, the really integral part of that transaction is there's an alternate revenue stream coming with the Exhibits and More acquisition that is non trade show related. So it's more of a museum space. They're a very, very successful player in the museum design and fabrication space. And
Interesting.
that was
Very
obviously
cool.
one of the things that was attractive to
By
us
the way,
because
that tracks with what we're hearing from a lot of the private equity companies and stakeholders. There was a time that you would buy a company and that seller rides off into the sunset right away. I still think 1 year and 6 months is actually a very short period of time, but post pandemic, one of the
Yeah.
things we've heard is buyers are saying, we've done our due diligence. We feel good about it. We believe you that the 3 year plan is going to happen, but we really are going to require you to stick around for 2 or 3 years and help make
yep.
sure that happens to realize the full, payout or price that we've agreed on. So,
Well, and one of those components of an acquisition could be an earnout type
right.
scenario where somebody is tied to that for a period of time.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have that, but that would be a factor for somebody looking at that. I think
So did you end
Yeah.
up, was this like a traditional bank loan you chose to do, or did you just crack open your grandkids' piggy banks and said, we're gonna
we
we're gonna grab everybody's money and just pay it?
fortunately we're not using a bank. We did not need a bank.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So we the and that might be why with the second transaction that took a year because we being the owners of the Exhibits and More and myself, we had to get creative. I think there's a different level of leverage also because I was the one approaching them. in my transaction with Francine in January. That was the other way around. So you are sitting in a little bit of a different posture in that regard. So we had to get creative. I didn't want to bring a bank into the mix, and the owners also agreed that they didn't want a bank involved. So it was a little bit of cash and some seller financing. We raised capital with a stock sale to an existing stockholder that is part of our corporation, and we were able to fund it that way. And
Fascinating.
they agreed to the structure of the deal. So again, they're part of their staying on for 6 months is part of that, but otherwise after that they can sit home and collect a paycheck.
I know
Yeah.
some of the questions the listeners. There's a lot of people, Mark, as you know, that are in this position of, I think probably more in the seller category than buyer. So I'm curious, as you did you sort of began the process with each company you were talking with. Was there a moment, like particularly the deal number 2, right? You said we had to get creative. Did you ever
Mhm.
think it wasn't going to happen? And I'm just curious, what are the kinds of things that that you would encourage a potential buyer and seller to go, I know this can be tough to do this, but hang in there and work through that. And I know, what is it, the expression, Khalil, ultimately every deal comes down to the synergy between the buyer and the seller, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, we really, I again, in this structure, there were three equal partners, in this, scenario, but they themselves agreed that one would be the guy that we'd be dealing with. I wouldn't have
So
to get
smart.
a consensus from 3 guys every time we had a conversation or a question, and so Jeff, one of the owners, and I would have a monthly breakfast. We'd meet at a diner somewhere between here and Syracuse, and we'd sit down, we'd hash things out, and he'd go back and they'd talk it over, and we would just work through things. There were a couple times where I had to pause the deal myself just because of our own, operational happenings here. And we did go back and we had to do a little bit of tweaking of the deal about midway through the year, and it worked. So I mean, um, I think, I guess the caution I would give anybody is to really just to get a connection with the seller to a point that you're comfortable with the level of trust between the two of you, that with the conversations you're having are going to actually end up on a contract somewhere before the lawyers get involved, because that slows things down a great deal too.